Hey everyone, and a big welcome to the Clippers and Shears podcast. So glad you've decided to tune in with us today. A special shout out to our sponsor, the amazing author behind the audiobook, Barber's Toolkit, your hands-on guide to killer cuts and sharp tools. Seriously, if you're a barber or hairstylist looking to really up your game and build a loyal clientele, this is a fantastic resource. Thanks so much for being here. I wanted to start by saying something that's really struck me over the years. Hair is so much more than just something that grows. It's a personal expression, a source of confidence, and a reflection of who we are. And for those of us in the barbering and hairstyling world, it's not just about making people look good. It's our passion, our livelihood, our art. Whether you're a stylist behind the chair, sharing your knowledge in a classroom, creating amazing content online, or even just trying to understand your own hair better, we're all connected by this shared interest. Understanding the fascinating science that makes every single strand of hair unique. So come along with me on this journey, and I mean right down to the roots. We're going to explore the biology, the structure, the sheer variety, and the best ways to care for hair. We'll dive into different hair types and textures, not just to put labels on them, but to truly understand them, serve them better, and ultimately appreciate them more. Okay, so what is hair, really? It sounds like a simple question, right? But honestly, even many of us in the industry don't often think about the scientific side of things. At its core, hair is made of this super tough protein called keratin. It's the same stuff that makes up your nails and that outer layer of your skin. This keratin is produced in the hair follicle, which sits just under your scalp, kind of like a seed beneath the soil that grows into a plant. Here's a cool fact. Each hair grows out of its own tiny follicle, and the shape of that follicle is actually a major player in determining your hair type and texture. Straight hair, round follicle. Curly hair, more oval-shaped. Kinky, or coily hair, almost flat and angled. Isn't it amazing? This tiny, unseen detail dictates how your hair comes out of your scalp. Now that we know where hair comes from, let's get even more specific. Each individual strand has three main layers. 1. The cuticle. This is the outermost layer, kind of like the shingles on a roof. It's there to protect the main part of the hair. 2. The cortex. This is the middle layer, and it's where your hair gets its strength, its color, and its ability to stretch. 3. The medulla. This is the innermost core, and it's not always there, especially in finer hair. So why should you care about all this? Well, when we use heat, chemicals, or even just a brush, we're interacting with these layers. Knowing how to protect that outer cuticle and keep the middle cortex strong can make a huge difference in preventing damage, making your styles last, and encouraging healthy growth. Think of it this way. If hair is a tree, the cortex is the trunk. It's what holds everything together. The cuticle is the bark, and the medulla. Not every tree needs a hollow center, right? Alright, let's talk about how hair actually grows. Because who doesn't want longer, healthier hair? But how does that magic happen? Hair goes through a cycle, kind of like the seasons, with three main stages. 1. Anagen. This is the growth phase, and it can last anywhere from 2 to 7 years depending on your genes. 2. Catagen. This is a short transition phase where the hair stops growing and starts to detach from its blood supply. 3. Telogen. This is the resting phase. Eventually, the hair falls out, making room for a new one to grow in. Most of us have around 90% of our hair in that active anagen, growing phase, at any given time. That's why it's normal to shed. We usually lose about 50 to 100 hairs a day. But here's the thing. Everyone's growth cycle is different. That's why some people can grow their hair down to their waist, while others seem to hit a wall at their shoulders. It's not always about what you're doing wrong. It could just be what your body is naturally programmed to do. Now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for: hair types. The system most of us use to talk about curl patterns is the Andre Walker hair typing system, which goes from type 1 to type 4. Type 1. Straight hair. 1A. Really fine, super silky, and bone straight. 1B. Still straight, but with a little more volume and body. 1C. Straight with some slight bends or gentle waves. Type 2. Wavy hair. 2A. Loose, very soft waves. 2B. More defined medium waves, with a tendency for a bit of frizz. 2C. Thicker, more noticeable waves with more frizz. Type 3. Curly hair. 3A. Loose, big, bouncy curls. 3B. Tighter, well-defined ringlets. 3C. Even tighter corkscrew curls. Type 4. Coily/kinky hair. 4A. Soft coils with a clear S-shaped pattern. 4B. More of a Z-shaped pattern with less defined curls. 4C. Very tight, dense coils with minimal definition, and often significant shrinkage. Now, I need to say something really important here. Hair typing is a helpful guide, but it's not a rigid set of rules. So many people have multiple curl patterns on their own head. You might have 4A at the crown, but 4C around your hairline, and that's totally normal and absolutely beautiful. Understanding hair types can help us figure out the best products to use, the gentlest way to detangle, how to keep hair moisturized, and the most effective styling techniques. But it should never, ever be used to judge, rank, or say one texture is better than another. Okay, this next topic is a real game changer. If you remember just one thing from our time together today, let it be this: porosity. Porosity basically refers to how well your hair can absorb and hold onto moisture. It's not about whether your hair is straight or curly. It's all about that outer cuticle layer we talked about. There are 3 main levels of porosity. Low porosity. The cuticle layers are really tightly closed. It's tough for water and products to get in, but once they do, they tend to stay put. Normal or medium porosity. The cuticle is just open enough to easily absorb moisture and keep it in. This type is usually the easiest to manage. High porosity. The cuticle is raised or even damaged. Hair soaks up moisture super quickly but loses it just as fast. You could have straight hair that's highly porous, or curly hair that's low porosity. Understanding your hair's porosity is key because it affects how your hair responds to conditioners, oils, heat, and even coloring. Knowing this can completely transform your hair care routine. I always like to say, texture tells you how to style your hair. Porosity tells you how to treat it. And this is really just the beginning. In the rest of this discussion, we're going to explore things like hair density and how thick each strand is, the crucial link between scalp health and hair growth, how our background and genetics play a role in our hair types, busting the myth of good hair, the science behind ingredients, and how they work with different textures, the rich cultural history associated with various hair types, specific product recommendations for different textures, and so much more. But before we move on to part 2, I want to leave you with this thought. Every single strand of hair has a story to tell. It carries our history, our DNA, and our unique identity. And when we take the time to understand the science behind it, we learn how to care for it not just with the right techniques, but with genuine appreciation. So you've got this guy, GSW Augustin, right? Sounds like he's all over social media, especially Instagram. Apparently, he's got an amazing book called The Barber's Toolkit, your go-to guide for killer haircuts and keeping your tools sharp. Now, about hair density and thickness. Let's clear up that common confusion. Think of hair density as how many individual strands you have packed into a certain area of your scalp. Imagine counting the hairs in a 1-inch square. That's density. Hair thickness, on the other hand, is about how wide each single strand is. Is it super fine and delicate, or thick and coarse? It's totally possible to have thick individual hairs, but not a huge amount of them overall. Low density. Or, you could have a ton of fine, thin hairs giving you a really full head of hair. High density. Why does this even matter? Well, density affects how you might cut and style someone's hair. If they don't have a lot of hair, you'd probably want to steer clear of thinning shears. But if they have super dense hair, layering can be your best friend to take out some of that weight. Then there's thickness. That influences how hair reacts to different products and styling tools. Fine hair tends to be more sensitive to heat and chemicals, while coarser hair can usually handle more heat but often needs extra moisture to stay soft. So understanding both density and thickness helps you really personalize everything from the products you use to the cutting techniques. Let's move on to scalp health, the real foundation for healthy hair. Picture your scalp as the soil for a plant. You wouldn't expect a rose to grow in dry, cracked earth, would you? Same goes for your hair. A healthy, nourished scalp is crucial for strong, vibrant growth. Here are some things to watch out for when thinking about your scalp's health. Dry, flaky scalp. This could be dandruff, psoriasis, or just product buildup. Itchy scalp. Often a sign of some kind of irritation, or even an allergic reaction. Oily scalp. Might mean your scalp is producing too much oil, or maybe your cleansing routine needs tweaking. Tenderness or pain. Could be an indication of something like folliculitis or another infection. So what does a happy scalp need? Proper cleansing. Not too much, not too little. It really depends on how oily your scalp gets. Exfoliation. Yep, your scalp needs exfoliating too. This helps get rid of buildup and encourages blood flow, moisture and oil balance. Don't think oil is the enemy. Your scalp produces sebum to protect itself, but when things get out of whack, your hair can suffer. And for all the barbers and stylists out there, don't skip that scalp check. You might be the only one who sees the top of your client's head regularly and could catch early signs of issues. Now, let's talk about where our hair actually comes from, our genetics and ethnicity. Our hair type and texture are deeply connected to our DNA and our background. This is just science, not about saying one type of hair is better than another. All hair is awesome. Here's a quick breakdown of some common hair characteristics often seen in different groups. People of African descent often have type 4 hair, those beautiful, tight coils with amazing shrinkage and versatility. The hair follicles are more flat and tightly coiled. This hair tends to be on the drier side, can be prone to breakage, and really thrives with deep moisture and protective styles. People of Asian descent often have type 1 hair, usually very straight, strong, and with a round follicle. This hair tends to be thicker in diameter and often grows quite fast. It can sometimes be resistant to things like coloring and perms because of its dense outer layer. People of European descent can have hair ranging from type 1 straight to type 3 curly, with all sorts of variations in density, color, and how curly it is. How well it absorbs moisture can also differ quite a bit. But here's the really cool part. In our increasingly diverse world, you see all kinds of mixed textures. Someone with African and Asian heritage might have coily hair that's also incredibly thick and grows quickly. Someone who is biracial might have different curl patterns in different sections of their hair. This is why understanding the science of hair is more important than ever. You can't just make assumptions based on someone's race or skin tone. You really need to feel the hair, take a close look, and talk to the person about their specific hair. And while we're on the subject, can we just ditch the whole idea of good hair? For way too long, society has made us think that some hair types, usually long, loose, and straight, are somehow superior to others. We hear things like, "She's got that good hair," or "You'd be so pretty if you straightened it," or even, "Your curls are cute, but they're a mess." Let me say this loud and clear. There is no such thing as bad hair. There's just hair that isn't being cared for in the right way. This whole good hair thing comes from outdated, Eurocentric beauty standards, and it's time we let that go. Every single hair texture, from the tightest 4C coil to the straightest 1A strand, has its own value, its own beauty, its own power. As professionals, it's our job to help our clients and ourselves see hair not as a competition or a ranking system, but as a beautiful spectrum of different types that should all be respected and celebrated. The way we talk about hair really matters. It shapes how people feel about their own hair and how they see others. Let me give you some examples of how we can shift our language. Instead of saying, "You have really nappy hair," try saying, "You have a tight, dense curl pattern with a lot of volume." Instead of, "Your hair is too much to handle," how about, "Your hair requires a bit more time and moisture, and it's worth every minute." And instead of, "Your hair is hard to work with," you could say, "Your hair has a strong personality, we just need the right approach." See the difference? It's not just about being politically correct. It's about creating a safe and positive space where people can truly embrace their natural hair without any shame. Let's dive into what's actually in the hair products we use. The ingredients can either be really beneficial or potentially harmful. Different hair textures often respond best to different kinds of ingredients. Here's a basic rundown. Generally good for most hair types. Water, the ultimate hydrator and the base for many leave-in products. Humectants, things like glycerin, honey, and aloe vera that help draw moisture into the hair. Proteins, like keratin, silk, and wheat protein, which can help strengthen damaged hair, but be careful not to use too much as it can sometimes make hair feel brittle. Often great for wavy to curly hair. Lightweight oils, argan, jojoba, and grapeseed oils are fantastic for adding moisture without weighing the hair down. Curl enhancers, ingredients like flaxseed gel, marshmallow root, and certain humectants that help define curls. Amazing for coily and kinky hair. Heavy butters, shea butter, mango butter, and cocoa butter are excellent for sealing in moisture and helping to reduce breakage. Emollients, help to soften the hair strand. Look for things like avocado oil, castor oil, or lanolin. Things to usually avoid. Sulfates. These are harsh cleansers that can strip your hair of its natural oils. Silicones. While they can make hair feel smooth, some types can build up on the hair over time if you're not using a clarifying shampoo. Drying alcohols. Not all alcohols are bad, but some, like ethanol and isopropyl alcohol, can really dry out your hair. The main takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all answer. You really need to understand the specific hair texture, how well it absorbs moisture, porosity, and then choose your products accordingly. We've covered a lot of the science behind hair types and textures, but there's still so much more to explore. Things like the emotional and cultural significance of hair, historical traditions, the best ways to do protective styling for different textures, how the seasons and climate impact our hair, and how we can better educate our clients. Because when we understand hair on every level, the science, the emotions, the culture, that's when we can truly make a positive difference in how people feel about themselves. Like I said before, when we speak to hair with science and soul, we don't just change hairstyles, we change self-esteem. And that's the end of part 1 of this awesome series on the science of hair. Thanks for tuning in to the Clipper and Shears podcast. Catch you on the next one. Take care.